feel like preparations are really starting to ramp up to that tournament?
Yeah, and I suppose obviously after a large volume of T20 cricket and the World Cup, naturally the focus shifts a little bit to the next one, and that is, like you mentioned, the ODI tournament. So reluctant to call it preparation. It's very much focusing on the series at hand and the cricket we want to play. But having said that, I also believe that's kind of the best way to prepare. So focusing on what's in front of us, but no doubt there's a lot more one-day cricket coming up.
I know as recently as last week you were talking about you want to keep playing all three formats. Obviously another innings on Sunday night that was perhaps a bit slow, a bit difficult to watch, at least from this side of the wicket. Have you had time to sit down and think about where you are with T20 and like your IPL auction coming up? Are you expecting you'll be bidded on and picked up there?
Yeah, I mean, I still love playing all the three formats, and I enjoy, changing between the three. And as a player, always am looking to keep improving, and I certainly have that motivation. And it was a bit frustrating the other night, and sometimes that's the way it goes. But still looking at some of the positives and some of the areas where you can keep adding value. In terms of the auction, we'll have to wait and see, and it's certainly not up to me. People make decisions on their teams and what they're after, and that's just the nature of how it works.
Just one last one, just in terms of T20, it's not something where you've sat down and sort of weighed up how it's going, looking forward. Now you're at the end of one World Cup campaign, there's another one 18 months away. It's just a case of just moving forward.
Yeah, I mean, there is less of it, and no doubt managing the schedule is really, really important, and whether that's some games here or there, etc. That does have to be looked at, and I think every team's sort of faced with those challenges. So yeah, I think it's just sort of crossing those bridges as you move forward, and trying to manage it and have that balance with it.
Kane, what conversations have you had with Martin Guptill this week?
A brief chat, a few chats with him prior as well. Obviously known Martin for a long time, and an incredible player for New Zealand, and obviously news broke yesterday, and made decisions to play in some of these other leagues, but obviously still available for New Zealand as well, but an incredible player for New Zealand.
Do you think there's a future for him still in 50-over cricket for New Zealand?
He's certainly, without doubt, been one of the best white ball players we've ever had. So there's no sort of questioning that. It's just trying to strike that balance, I guess, like we've seen with a few other players that have also sort of looked at some of those other opportunities, and it's a bit of a moving landscape. So it's trying to weigh that up and look at how it can all work moving forward.
What were those conversations like? Because he must be feeling pretty disappointed after 13, 14 years in the black cap. It looks like it might have come to an end. What were those conversations like?
He hasn't retired, so he's looking at playing some other tournaments, and while still being available. But like I say, it's balancing that moving forward. He's still very motivated to keep playing and getting better, and I think that's important for all players, even though he's played such a long, amazing career. So as a mate and a teammate over a long period of time, we had a few good chats, and it's managing that time. I think as a player, you always go through different periods, and you get to different stages, and you're trying to basically manage that as best you can.
Kane, what does this team need to do to move forward in the ODI space, given the series defeat against Australia? What do you want to see this team to, I guess, get back on track?
It's sort of reconnecting a little bit. Hasn't been a huge amount of one-day cricket in the past. It's been a lot more T20 with some tests. So I think it's sitting down as a group and getting a nice understanding. There's always change as well in environments, and so there's a few factors to look at. But ultimately committing to those things, keeping it nice and simple, and going out and expressing ourselves, because obviously there's a long time between now and the next major event in ODI cricket, and a lot of games in between that time.
Has it been a bit frustrating with the weather? I know you can't do anything about it, no one can, but the weather delays in the game so far, and hopefully not today. Has it been frustrating to not get, I guess, the amount of cricket that this team could in New Zealand?
Yeah, I mean, it's like you say, can't control it. It's a little bit unusual, I think, the type of weather we've been getting at the moment. But it sort of is what it is, really. So we just keep looking forward to the next challenge, preparing as well as we can, and obviously the weather tomorrow looks pretty good. So I mean, it'll be nice to get the series started in the ODI format.
After Zion, we'll go over the other side.
Have you had a look at the wicket out there? And I mean, if so, what do you make of it?
I haven't yet. We just arrived sort of at the ground, so I'll go and look at the pitch after this. Yeah.
Just your thoughts on ODI cricket as a whole and the format itself. We had a one-day international between Australia and England recently, where there were 1,000 people at the MCG. What are your thoughts on the future of this format and what does?
I suppose. Yeah, that's sort of unfortunate to see, but it might speak a little bit to the volume as well of cricket that has been had, because no doubt, the ICC World Tournaments are always, incredibly popular. So there's probably a few factors there. There's been a lot of cricket on, and obviously they've just had a World Cup where, there was a lot on in their country too. So, it's, I suppose, always been looked at closely, trying to make sure there's as much context as possible in games of cricket, and bilateral series and things. You can only hope that as teams you're always looking to improve and make the cricket better and better and more appealing to watch. It's hard to know exactly where it's going, but I think every team's got, every team does basically have a World Cup on the horizon, so there'll be a lot of focus going into ODI cricket, I'm sure, still.
Do you think, though, the 50-over game could kind of be in danger where you have Test cricket, the pinnacle, T20, the moneymaker? It's, something's got to give, like you say, with that congested schedule. It's tough. You do feel like it will settle somewhere, and I don't know how, and I don't know what it'll all look like. But there is a huge amount on, and a lot of teams are almost have two teams at the moment, playing international cricket, which is just because it's almost impossible not to, So, I don't know exactly basically where it's going to settle. I know that there are always conversations about trying to make it more appealing in any format, really, context, different rule changes, etc. So we'll just see. I think, though, that kind of two-team thing, like you're saying, is part of the trouble where, England, those guys flew home and weren't there for that one-day series. India, some of their big rock stars aren't here. Do you think that's going to kind of dilute people's appetite for the game?
I think when there is so much on, you might see things like what we saw in Australia, where there weren't as many people as they'd hoped, and maybe weather is a factor too. It's hard to know exactly, but you do want to make sure that, or as much as you can, that there is context and players are nice and fresh, but tough to achieve at the moment.
Marl in the front row.
Yeah. Kane, England's template of going bang from the very first ball, especially in T20, and now there is a debate the same format. Obviously, England has been implementing in ODI as well. How tough it becomes for the players like you or Rohit Sharma or Virat Kohli, legends of the game, different style, anchor style, and then go later on.
Yeah, I suppose it's a lot about, as a team, how you want to plan, your best recipe, I guess, and England have a good formula and have a lot of depth in terms of their all-round capabilities as cricketers, and they bat a long way down. So naturally, they're able to position themselves a certain way, and every team is always looking at how they can get the most out of what they have and the style of cricket they want to play. So I don't think there's a right or wrong way of doing anything. It's just really trying to connect to what you can do to be the best cricket team you can be.
But do you think that the same template can be continued, especially if you think that the World Cup is happening in India, and Indian pitches are not like Australia or England where you can go from the first ball? So where there the likes of whether experienced campaigner like you or Rohit or Virat, it will be a different ball game altogether. Even ODI cricket back in India.
Yeah, it's always different. I think every time, certainly that I remember in world events, you turn up and there's so many things to factor in. You might see a highlight reel one day and we all get excited, and then you go to a tournament where the pitches vary a lot and one way doesn't work every day. And I don't just mean any team specific style, I just mean as individuals trying to adapt and adjust what you need to do to get to different stages as a team. And every event that I've been to, even you go to Aussie, we saw those pitches, how much they varied throughout the competition, and even here when the World Cup was here, England as well in 2019. So there's always a lot to have to adapt to in those major events.
My final question, Kane. Because of amount of, you spoke about the volume of cricket being played these days. Do you think the high time has come? India has already started that. Split captaincy in all three formats, split coaching staff, maybe even split selectors specifically. Do you think that time has come?
It appears to be sort of happening more and more, and you can understand why. There's so much on, and you can't do everything, and basically for that reason, you see a lot of teams with those sorts of makeups to how they're operating.
Andrew? Kane, did Gary and Gavin ask for your input when they dropped Martin on the ODI side?
I mean, obviously our most recent series, and he was very much in the squad, and as you narrow down to a smaller squad when you play at home, it's a little bit more challenging to fit everybody in, but we're always having different discussions around the team and the direction, and with individuals, etc. So there's always different chats that are happening, and you're looking at the next series, you're looking at different periods of time and trying to keep growing depth and all these sorts of things. So there's a lot of factors to always discuss and try and be on top of.
And I know you noted he's not retired, but would you rather he was still in the squad for this series, or are you comfortable with the decision to drop him?
Obviously he's made a decision to explore a few other options, but as a player and as an experienced member of the group, he's added so much value over the years and been one of our best white ball players ever. And even in the T20 World Cup, without getting a playing opportunity, he was outstanding at offering to all the players in the group. So, he's been fantastic in so many areas of the environment. Absolutely, will be missed, but like I say, he's not retired. So there's a lot to keep working through over the next period to get a real feel for how the picture looks.
Last couple guys. Would you prefer he'd been picked for this series though?
We've had a number of conversations about a lot of players, as we always do, when we look at series and consider different factors in terms of guys getting experience and bringing players through, etc. So we're always having those discussions.
Do you think there's extra pressure now on Finn Allen? He's kind of been almost anointed as the man to take over from Guptill. He's had a bit of a lean run after that big innings against Aussie. Do you think there's a bit more pressure on him for the series?
I think in cricket you're always going through different experiences and you get taught a number of different lessons, and as a young player, Finn's got an incredible amount of talent. We've all seen that, and he's continuing to learn as well, and so they're all really valuable experiences to have, and he's no different to any other player, whether you bat, bowl or played a few more games. So it's just the nature of sport, and he's got a great appetite to keep improving and developing as a player.
Thanks guys.
One more question, sorry. Is that good?
Last one.
Over.
With, like old mate said, it's been a heap of rain. How do you guys pass the time when it's a rain delay? What's your favourite rain delay passing?
You might have seen the other day there was a bit of football happening in Wellington, and with the opposition, like some tight games there too, and sometimes some cards, bits and pieces, but often in the T20 stuff when it's raining, it's the short matches, and so you're kind of waiting either to get on quickly or not, and you end up heading back to the hotel, and one day as tests, got a bit more time on your hands. So everybody just does different bits and pieces.
Thanks guys.
Cheers.